Welcome to the Armani Talks YouTube channel. I'm your host, Armani Talks. On this channel, I'm helping you level up your communication skills. On this episode, we're entering the world of social skills to discuss the nervous laugh. The problem with the nervous laughter is that there's different problems. One, if you suddenly stop nervous laughing, then you feel a lot of tension. And if you are nervous laughing, then you feel a lot of tension. So what do? Well, the beauty about the social skills world is that if you're able to generate a big, massive insight, then you can shift your behavior rather quickly from night to day. An insight is defined as a profound truth that is generated from within. How can you gain one of these insights? Through introspection, through experiences, and through hearing the stories of other people that may resonate with your experiences. In this episode, I'm going to be sharing a story of a moment when I was struggling with the nervous laughter, and I'm going to tell you a few lessons that I learned from that moment. By understanding the lessons that I learned from this moment, you'll resonate. You'll be able to apply it in context to your life, which will cultivate the insight that shifts your behavior from night to day. So let's get started with the story. This was around the 7th grade when I had just moved to a new location. And since I moved to a new location, I had to change the bus that I rode in to go to school. The problem with this bus was I didn't know much people. So I was normally sitting all the way in the front by myself, listening to music. Well, as time is going by, there was a girl named Daniela from the back of the bus that was able to pick up that I was in the front by myself. She came all the way into the front and tried to stir up a conversation with me. There was a lot on the line because I had to think of something to say to her to keep her interested in the conversation. But I couldn't think of anything. Luckily, I was bailed out. I accidentally ended up making Daniela laugh. I was like, "You smell that? That bus driver always smells so bad." Ugh. I was able to pick up this dude's smell because I was all the way in the front right next to him. When I brought this up, Daniela starts laughing uncontrollably. She's laughing a lot. Now I'm laughing a lot. And eventually, she stops laughing. Yet, I continue to laugh a lot. A part of me felt if I stopped laughing, that meant that I wasn't doing a good job in terms of the conversation. I wasn't keeping the mood light. And if I wasn't keeping the mood light, then the conversation was boring. If the conversation was boring, Daniela would get up and leave back to the back of the bus. So I did my best to keep laughing and just keep the mood light. And eventually it got to a point where Daniela started to show a lot of uncomfortable body language. And I went from laughing a lot to stopping. But when I stopped laughing, now Daniela starts laughing a lot. And she brings an awareness to something that I didn't know I was doing. She looks at me and she's like, "You laugh way too much." Then she got up and went back to the back of the bus. That day, I was able to learn a few different lessons. I was able to learn that just because you're laughing, trying to keep the mood light, does not mean that you're doing a good job in terms of the conversation. And another lesson I learned was that could be the main reason why you're not doing a good job in the conversation, because you're laughing too much, trying to keep the mood light. And this got me thinking. This got me thinking from nowadays to reviewing my 7th grade self. Because nowadays, I understand body language on a deeper level that my 7th grade self didn't understand. Why was I acting like that? And when I asked that question, I had this insight that there's tiers to social anxiety body language. We make the mistake in thinking all uncomfortable body language should be grouped under one umbrella, while in reality, that's a general understanding. It's not a nuanced understanding. Let me tell you what I mean by that. If I were to ask you right now, what are a few ways that you can spot when someone is socially anxious? What are some body language quirks? What are you gonna think of? The darting eyes, when their eyes are going all over the place? Correct. What else can you think of? They're touching their neck a lot, or they're touching their arms a lot? Correct. What else can you think of? They're shuffling a lot? Correct. What else can you think of? And the nervous laughter? Correct. Now the question is, how is the nervous laughter different than these three right here? Think about it for a second. Sound. Sound is the difference. Because with these three, there's very little to no sound at all. But with the nervous laughter, there's a sound that is being generated. And understanding sound is a crucial part of communication skills as a whole. So the question is, why is it that someone who's socially anxious, it would be as though common sense tells us that this person is trying to hide. So why are they generating sound? To understand this question, let's just think of an analogy in terms of Mother Nature. Imagine that there's a deer who's minding his own business, eating some grass, and it sees a tiger lurking by the corner. This deer is gonna hide right behind that tree and not say anything, because it understands that if it starts making a lot of sounds, then it's going to catch the awareness of the tiger, risking its life. Likewise, with someone in terms of social anxiety, they're like that deer. For the most part, they're trying to hide themselves. Sure, they're in the interaction, but they're trying to make themselves small, which all these three body language indicates. But they're laughing. That's like the deer shuffling and making the tiger aware of it. Why? Here's the reason why. It's because of an indecision that's being formed. The nervous laughter, the sound that's being generated, is due to an indecision. A part of us feels a lot of tension and we don't want to participate, while another part of us feels as though if we don't participate, if we're not saying much, if we're being quiet, if there's silences, then we're doing a bad job, we're not keeping the mood light. So due to this indecision, the nervous laughter is born. What I was able to understand that day was, just because sound is being generated does not mean that the conversation is successful. I was inaccurately measuring the success of the conversation based off of sound. You're telling me I shouldn't do that? No. Then what should I base as the success? The success in terms of a conversation is how well you are making the other person the centerpiece of the interaction. Because when you can make the other person the centerpiece, that doesn't mean you're just aimlessly asking this person questions, interrogating them. It means that you're bringing awareness to this person, which helps you center yourself in the present moment. And now, this is a better way to measure success in terms of conversation. Not sound. Sound has very little data point. It's not that meaningful. It's, are you making the other person the centerpiece? With myself and Daniela's story, I wasn't making Daniela the centerpiece. I was making myself the centerpiece. I was like, how can she like me? How can I make the conversation in a way where I keep the mood light? Everything was becoming about me. So that's when the indecision was being formed. I was making this subconscious error in thinking that sound meant success and the nervous giggling was being born. Hypothetically, let's say we lived in an alternate world and I did what I was supposed to do. I put the focus on Daniela. You know what would have happened? A beautiful thing would have happened. I would have transmuted the nervous giggle into what I call the strategic laugh. All charismatic people understand a concept called the strategic laugh. Because let's keep it real. A lot of the times in social interactions, the people that are telling us jokes, they're not that funny. They're doing their best, but they're not that funny. But charismatic people aren't just doing. Charismatic people are able to laugh. They'll be like, haha, good one. But Armani, isn't that a nervous giggle? No, because the charismatic person who's doing a strategic laugh, they're making the other person the centerpiece. They're not making themselves the centerpiece. They're making the other person the centerpiece, which gives them more control in terms of when they want to use the sound. So these are a couple of big lessons I learned in the story with Daniela. I learned that the whole aspect of sound becomes extremely important when I make myself the centerpiece. I learned that there's different tiers of body language social anxiety moves. But most importantly, I learned that if I focused on Daniela, I would have been more present. I wouldn't have been so me focused, and I would have transmuted that nervous giggle into strategic laughter, the move that charismatic people use. So watch this video a few times if you need to, and see if you can cultivate the insights on your own life. You'll start to resonate a lot with this story. You'll start to understand how much importance you've subconsciously or consciously been putting on sound because you're unfortunately becoming too me focused. Put the focus on the other person and turn that nervous giggle into what I call the strategic laughter. The laughter that is well timed, that sometimes you understand that these people that you're going to be talking to ain't always funny, but you know when to laugh because they're doing their best. They are now the centerpiece of the interaction, and by making them the centerpiece, you strangely increase your social value. To learn more about the world of social skills in an art and scientific format, be sure you check out The Charisma King, a practical book to manage social anxiety, learn more about how to maintain a conversation, and how to build a powerful social circle. To grab your copy, check out the link in the description box or my pinned comment right on below. Thank you for joining the Armani Talks YouTube channel, and I'll catch you on the next episode.